Then Herr von Arnsberg, looking across at me with a face that had grown serious, said, "I hope we do not give you false impressions, because we are deeply indebted to Hitler." He saw the look of surprise on my face. Let me explain. I and many other officers will now spend much of our time and thought in trying all sorts of ways to teach what is in direct opposition to most of the Nazi teaching. But that does not mean that as German officers we can never forget the gratitude and allegiance we owe to Adolf Hitler. You see, the German army had fallen into disrepute. It scarcely existed. It was dishonored and discredited and suffered every sort of indignity. Adolf Hitler has brought it back to the place of supreme importance in the life of our nation, and above all, to a place of honor. This we must never forget, and we remain true in our allegiance to him, however much we may work against his teaching when it means the wrong education of our youth. Then, as the last streak of light faded behind the pine trees, Herr von Arnsberg added, speaking more to himself than to me, "Yes, our oath is to Adolf Hitler, who restored the German army. Would to God he had been a gentleman, a Christian, and an officer. He is a decorator, a pagan, and a civilian, but to him we are bound by military oath and by eternal gratitude." When I was left alone with the young officer, he turned to me, perhaps realizing that I felt rather horrified by what his uncle had said about allegiance to Hitler, and said, "You do see my uncle is right, don't you? His generation suffered most deeply in the war, and afterwards saw degradation at home. And whereas I, as a young man, should now be unemployed and unwanted, I owe it to Hitler that I have a marvelous job, made the more important by the very falseness of his own party's teaching. It is all right for my great-uncle, because his life is now nearly over, but for our generation it is wonderful that we have at last got employment and something important to do. After all, I sometimes think that I would put up with almost anything if in my lifetime this feeling of defeat could be removed from the German army. I know much is bad in what the Nazis do, but it will not last. It is the sort of thing that happens in revolutions.